screen. Okay, I'm able to present. That's fine. That's good. All right. That's very good. All right. So based on what we did the last on Thursday, all right, what was the homework I gave everybody? Because I know that I gave you work to do. What did I ask you to do, guys? Please.
So some of the work was to research more of the different types of Scrum. So Scrum, Scaled Agile Framework, large scale Scrum.
Different types of Agile framework or different types of Scrum?
Different types of Agile framework.
Agile framework.
Yeah, so
okay.
you asked us
different methodologies, yes.
You asked us to recap on what we've learned, research more on the different types of Agile frameworks, including finding out the advantages and disadvantages of the different types, and then also pick two and do a comparison. Why is this one maybe better than this one in some instances, and what are the disadvantages as well?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So what were your findings, guys? Who wants to go first? What do you want me to know that you have done? Can you all just give me a recap quickly? Because we've got quite a few things to cover. Are you able to do that quickly?
So, what I found out is that Agile is made up of 4 core values and also 12 principles. And the core values are that individual and interaction. Agile lay emphasis on individual and interactions over process and tools. And the second one is that it lay emphasis on working software over, say, comprehensive documentation. And also the third one is that it prioritizes customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and also responding to change over following a plan. Those are the core values. While the 12 principles of Agile, would you want me to mention the 12 principles or just mention a few?
Just mention a few of it. If you mention the 12, others would have nothing to say. But I just want to be sure that you've done. Thank you. I'm watching.
Okay, shall I? Okay, I'll mention 2. So it places priority on satisfying the customer through continuous delivery of the valuable software. And the second one is that it places value on software, working software, as the primary measure of progress. So it kind of, measures working software. I think those are the 2 that I can come up with.
Okay, you've tried. Well done.
Okay.
Thank you. At least you've tried. Anybody else?
I can go next. So I won't repeat some of the things Justin said. I'll mention some other things I researched. I researched on the Agile mindset just to get some foundation understanding. And from what I've learned or researched, it's the Agile mindset it's like a set of beliefs or attitudes towards approaching work that fosters adaptability, real focus on customers, making it really customer-centric, and also focusing on collaboration. These are the elements that sort of form the Agile mindset that is the basis for all the frameworks. Some of those elements include embracing change, so being open to change and seeing it as a form of improvement, even though it might be uncertain, but working closely with stakeholders, the dev team and the stakeholders will see to it that change flows through the work and you really do end up with the product the customer wants. Another key agile mindset is really focusing on empowering teams to self-organize and also to be built in a cross-functional manner. So really encouraging them to take ownership of their work, make decisions, collaborate, discuss things, and foster some ownership between the core members or the team members is also one of the sort of thinking or attitudes that an agile mindset has. And we can see this flow through in the different frameworks. I also looked at the agile values, which are like it's like a collective set of guides that the agile framework really believes in, and they structure their work around. And the guides, if you break it down a bit further, is where you get the 12 principles. So for the values, responding to change, like I mentioned before, responding to that, valuing that over following a rigid plan, and also valuing working software. So being able to give shippable software within a specified amount of time as your form of tracking progress, for example. And then I also did research into a comparison. I looked at Scrum and Kanban, for example, to say what instances would you use it and why is one sort of better in some cases than the other. So with Scrum, it's suited for projects that have requirements that you kind of find out and build as you go. They evolve, but you work with clearly defined roles, which is the Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Dev team, and you work within time-boxed sprints. Whereas for Kanban, the focus is more with a continuous flow of work. You don't necessarily have such defined roles, but you don't work in like a time box iterations. The focus more with Kanban is on the capacity, limiting the amount of work going by the capacity that the team has to keep the work flowing as you flow through. So those are some of the things that I learned.
Thank you very much. Well done. That's good. All right. Anybody else?
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, I researched on the 12 principles of Agile, and also the I took two of the framework, which is Save and Scrum. I checked for the advantage and disadvantage of each of them, and I made my decision. So the 12 principles of Agile, the one I'll just take two, since you said we shouldn't say all. So I felt Agile, they welcome changes whenever it requires. They also believe face-to-face is the best way of conveying information. And I took Save and Scrum for the framework. So the advantage of Scrum, I said, I saw that it's flexible, it encourages collaboration, and it involves low costs. And why the disadvantages of Scrum, it requires extensive training, and also it requires experienced personnel, meaning the team workers, they have to be well experienced before they can do the work successfully and quickly. So the advantage of Save is that it's not suitable for small team and they lack flexibility. While the advantage of Save, it promotes collaboration. Also, it is easy to implement. So I took Scrum because one, it's flexible and it also encourages teamwork, collaboration to bring a positive job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other person? Anyone else?
Yeah, so I was looking at advantages and disadvantages of Scrum. And one of the advantages of Scrum is that so if you have sort of large projects, those large projects can be separated into smaller and manageable parts, which are some of the sprints that we've been learning about. And I know we are on sprint 1. So, and that's quite helpful because in looking at the different types of project management, doing it that way means that feedback means that you can sort of, because you're meeting regularly as a team and you're discussing, you can then, if there are things that are not working, you can come back, discuss, and let's start again because it's iterative. And so that way, that's one benefit of Scrum, that those large and complex projects can be separated into smaller and more manageable parts. And then those improvements can be analyzed during the sprint review and then made possible for that project to be completed. One disadvantage that I saw, though, is that
hello, good evening, everyone.
One disadvantage that I found was that
hello,
a huge problem will arise if team members leaves the project in the middle of the progress. So,
does it mean I'm here alone? There's nobody here.
Sorry, someone is speaking.
If you just hold on, please. Choma is talking. You just mute yourself for a few minutes. Thank you.
So, thank you. So a huge
Hello,
problem.
is anyone hearing me?
We are hearing you.
We can hear you, but someone is speaking. I'm speaking. So if you just wait.
What is happening?
You mean she's not hearing me now?
Okay, I think I'm hearing now.
Okay.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. So a huge problem will arise if any team member leaves the project in the middle of the progress. And that's something that was quite helpful because yesterday we looked at capacity, and that was helpful in capacity planning to show so that we don't have the problem of someone leaving in the middle of a project because everyone knows how much capacity is required for a project. So that's one thing that I found out.
Okay, when you talk of capacity, you mean capacity within sprints, not capacity within projects. If somebody lives within the sprint, that's what you're saying, right?
Yes, but I was also thinking of the project as a whole because I think it was yesterday, when we looked at capacity planning, we looked at like a sprint and planning for, developers and number of people that will be there. But that was a helpful thing to think about in thinking about projects generally as well. So taking into consideration if people are on holiday.
I haven't commented on any of the feedback you've been doing. I haven't given feedback. I just want to hear you all out. So let's go on. Don't worry. I'll talk later.
All right. Unfortunately, I didn't finish the training because I had to go to work. But I just scanned through the training. I've not sat down to rewatch it. But I was reading about the 12 principles of Agile, and 3 of them struck me. One of them says business people and developer must work together daily throughout the project. And what I understood, by that, it's there should be no room for isolation of either of the two, and the two parties has to come together to make sure there's a free flow of working together. And the other one is working software is the primary measure of progress. So Agile depends solely on the work on software, and it has to work properly because that is the only thing that can be used to measure projects in Agile planning. And the other one I saw says continuous attention to technical excellence and good designs enhances agility. So what I understand by that is if the continuity of attention makes the Agile process to work better. That's just those things that I've checked so far.
No, I'm not sure I followed you well, though. Are you saying that Agile only works with software? development. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so that's what I researched. I saw that the working software is the primary measure of progress in Agile.
Because we say working software, it doesn't mean Agile is only for software development.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah. Anybody else?
No, I think those are all the interns from this year on the call that have spoken.
Okay, so it's only one person that have been able to tell me that they did comparison between two frameworks to say, for example, one of you gave an example about Kanban and Scrum. All right. So apart from the last person that owned up to say that he was not able to follow the class, for every other person that followed the class, the assignment I gave is that you should come back with two frameworks and tell me the difference between two of them. Now, the other person that spoke about Scrum, somebody spoke about Scrum and Safe as well, which makes two of you. I would comment on what you've said, but can I hear from the rest? Did you do any other comparison, guys?
Hi, Femi. I did, but you know, when I was the first person that spoke, and I thought we're just going to pick it up from where I stopped. Like the next person would talk about the benefits or the types of Agile framework. Hence why I stopped at the principles, thinking someone else would pick up from there. So I did I researched further, or more than, the principles. I did research on the type of Agile framework, and I also did the benefit. So if you want me to, carry on from there, I can. So I did follow up. I did
not to carry on. The homework I gave is,
okay.
When you've done this, I want you to do comparison of two of the major Agile frameworks. Just choose two and tell me what are the advantages and disadvantages.
Okay, so I will continue from the type of Agile framework. So from my research, I came across more than 5, but I'm going to be speaking, or I'll only mention 5 of it. I saw Scrum framework, Kanban, Lean, XP, which is the extreme programming. I saw the dynamic system development method, which is the DSDM, and also the FDD, which is the future-driven development framework. And I then went further to check the advantages and disadvantages of these two. Sorry, I decided to go with 2 of the framework, which is the Scrum and the FDD. And the advantages of Scrum framework is that it helps to deliver the products, in the highest value, to ensure that the most important feature is being delivered, and also it also ensures that the money and time are used efficiently. Now, the disadvantages I discover is that 1, it often causes scope creep, and this is due to the fact that there is no definite end date, in the sense that once the product or the project is delivered, there is still some work, that is still going on at the back end to ensure that whether the product is working as it should be. Now, with the FDD, the advantage advantages are that it gives the team a very good understanding of the project or the product that they will be working on and the context of the project. And also, unlike the Scrum framework, which requires, that has the Scrum ceremonies, the FDD has got a fewer meetings as the focus is on delivering the whole future, even though it's going to be bit by bit. The disadvantages of having or using the FDD framework is that it's not suitable for a smaller project, unlike the Scrum, where they have smaller project team, and where there is only one developer. So with FDD, you have to have more than one developer because of the features. And also, it doesn't give any written documentation, unlike the Scrum, although there are documentation, but again, these are not very obvious to the stakeholders or the stakeholders. Yes, that's what I'll say. And also it requires, with the FDD, it requires more time and resources in order for the project to be successful. So yeah, and if I'm to choose between these two, I'd rather go with Scrum for the fact that, one can easily monitor the project team and ensures that the budget is spent wisely or used wisely, and that the product is delivered within the time frame. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Did anybody else do any comparison? Did anyone else do any comparison?
Yeah, so
at least I have 3 of you now. Out of 7, 3 of them.
So I was looking at Scrum of Scrum, and I was trying to look at Scrum of Scrum and what the difference between I was only really able to look at Scrum of Scrum. But what I understood from it is quite, because I think when you were delivering your training, you were speaking about the different types of Scrum. But what I understood about the Scrum of Scrums is that it's really a way to help connect different teams so that they can work together to deliver large and complex projects or solutions. And it works quite well because when multiple teams are connected, they can deliver large scale projects. However, one of the things that I noticed was that it was really important that the team sizing is key, because if it's too big or too small, then lines of communication might be blurred and they might not be able to work well as a team. So that was one of the things that I found in Scrum of Scrum. So, but in splitting a very large team into small ones, it means that they're able to develop those relationships and also still continue to achieve the outcomes that are required. And thereby they're able to then deliver value because they're a smaller independent team.
Okay, thank you. Some of the things that some of you have said, well, I know that this thing stems from the things that you've read or that you have seen online. Some of those
Femi, your line.
through this training, some of them might get debunked. Can you hear?
No, not clearly, not clearly.
No, we can't hear you.
Oh my gosh. I want you to hear me clearly, please. Can you hear me clearly? I want everybody to hear me very clearly.
Oh, yes.
It's much better now. It's much better now, Femi.
It's better now. Oh,
Yes,
fantastic. So I was just saying that some of the things that you've read, some of the things you've said tonight, some of them, as we go through this training, might get debunked. Some of them might be things that you say, oh, that's correct. But as you practicalize them, some of them will get debunked theoretically, because you would realize that when we talk about any framework or any process, the most important thing for you is to practicalize it. When you practicalize something, that's when you would know what the real thing is. Like some of you that said, oh, Scrum of Scrum, it's too big, or you said, oh, Scrum, sometimes it has whatever disadvantage that some of you have said. I'm not going to comment on it. I'm not going to say anything right now. What I would just want to say to you is, I want you to follow some of the things that I will be training. And if you have questions based on what your findings are, please feel free to raise those questions. Why? Because if you don't raise the question, I wouldn't be able to help you. Raising the question would mean all the effort that you have put into these would then pay off at the end of it. Okay? Are we together? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. So where we stopped last week, I said to you that it's important for you as a delivery manager to understand some concepts that we talk about, either Scrum, Kanban, XP, FDD, TDD. A good delivery manager needs to understand some of those things. And like I said last week as well, I'll be happy for us to do some other things, maybe some other framework, but because that's not the main thing that I want to teach you, I'm not going to dwell solely on that. I will touch on it, and then later, if you have questions, feel free to ask me, and we can then go over it and see how we make it better. Okay? So now, tonight, I'll just quickly do a recap. I said to you that when we talk of a delivery manager manages projects, manages people, manages products, and things like that. And we talked about Prince 2, how Prince 2 came to be. Then from Prince 2, we went into Agile, and we went into some history around Agile. And then from there, we went into digital transformation to talk about what digital transformation is and why it's important for us to do Agile to do digital transformation. And this is where your role comes in as a delivery manager. Does this make sense, everybody? So we went through that, and we went through how people are implementing digital transformation. And we then said that digital transformation, for it to be effective, efficient, it's got to be customer-centric, isn't it? So if it is customer-centric, it means we have to get customers involved every step of the way. And that's what brought us to the difference between waterfall and Agile. And we spoke about waterfall. I believe everybody understands what waterfall is now, and everybody understands what Agile is, right? Because we gave definition for both. You are all keeping quiet on me. Can you please confirm that you can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Please let me share my screen so you wouldn't. Can you see my screen as well? You're not just hearing me. Can you also see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh. Okay. Cannot see my screen. I expect that you should be able to see my screen. Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Not here.
Okay. All right, maybe that's network problem then. I'll stop sharing and I'll share again, okay? Share it again. Are you able to see it now? Hello? Can you see my screen, guys?
Not yet,
No,
Femi.
no, not yet.
Not yet.
What's going on? Okay. All right, let's keep going. I believe it will still show up by itself when it's happy. Yeah, I think it's very sad at the moment. So let's leave it to it. And when it's happy. So tonight, it's important that you see my screen because I want us to touch on 3 elements that are very critical in Scrum. Now, we've spoken about the importance of Agile. We've spoken about various framework within Agile. And we've spoken about the fact that as a delivery manager, you need to be ahead of people because a delivery manager, Scrum Masters will report to you when you're at work. If you're a delivery lead, you would have people, Scrum Master, software testers, business analysts, and many other people. You would have many of them having meeting with you, giving you updates on delivery status, where they are, what things are happening, and how things are going on. Okay? So because of that, if you don't understand the process properly, it will be a problem. And that's the reason I've started to take that out of the way for you before we get into some of the core things that you'll still be doing apart from all of this. A delivery manager, you'll be seen as an impediment remover. And the only way you can become an impediment remover is to know the framework. So I believe all of you here understand Scrum framework, right? Do you all know Scrum framework very well?
Yeah, we understand. Yes.
Okay, so most of you have been Scrum Masters, right? Right?
Not previously, but we attend the trainings that the Scrum Masters are getting as well.
Fantastic. So when we talk about, that's very good. I'm glad to hear that. So when we talk about Scrum then, so
Oh, we can't hear you, Femi. Femi, we can't hear you.
Hi, Femi. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Femi.
The roles,
Femi, we can't hear you.
of Scrum. You can.
Femi.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We missed all you said.
You can hear me.
The line. Yeah, but we missed all that you just said.
Okay. I was asking, I said there are 3 important elements in Scrum. All right. I spoke and I said we have roles, we have the events of Scrum, and we have the artifacts of Scrum. And I want someone to tell me, what are the artifacts of Scrum? What are the events of Scrum? And what are the roles of Scrum? You can take it one person per one topic. What are the artifacts of Scrum? What are the events of Scrum? What are the roles in Scrum? Can anyone tell me?
So the key roles in a Scrum team are the Scrum Master, the dev team, that's the developers, And you also have the I'm trying to remember now, Scrum Master. Let me think. It's the Scrum Master, the developer, and the product owner. Scrum Master,
Fantastic.
development team, and product
Yeah.
owner.
Well done. Okay. Well
And
done.
then the
All right.
artifact.
Who wants?
The
No,
artifact.
let somebody else do that. Let somebody else tell me.
No, I'm somebody else.
Oh, you have somebody else. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Can you tell me your name? I want to know.
Chioma.
So I know.
Chioma.
Okay. Chioma. All right,
yes.
Chioma.
So the artifacts, product backlog, sprints, sprint backlog, and increments.
When any other one?
Yes.
And
so product backlog, sprint planning meeting, product increment.
No.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not.
Sorry.
Those are not artifacts.
Okay.
Sprint
Let me go
planning
back.
meeting is not.
Okay. So product backlog, sprint backlog, and increments, and then also the sprint review and retrospective.
No, those are not artifacts.
So I've mixed my two things up. So product backlog,
Yes.
sprint backlog, and increments.
Increment. What do you mean increment?
So following the.
Okay, you've tried. Anybody else? Well done. What are the artifacts of Scrum?
The other one, burn down charts, and the different charts should be on there. So the burn down, the velocity charts.
What do we call those ones?
The metrics?
What do we? Metrics. Yes, metrics. So what's the last one that Chioma was referring to? There is something Chioma was trying to refer to. Well done, Chioma, and well done to you too, guys. So,
Increment.
Yeah, we release incrementally. But when we say that, those are the increment releases. Okay? So some will call it finished work. Some will call it increment release. Okay? So it's not just increment. You can't just say increment. If you say increment, it wouldn't really make sense to us. So what are the events of Scrum?
Yeah, hello Femi.
Hi.
This is Rita. Yeah, the event of Scrum is the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, and the sprint review.
Okay, those are the three.
Yeah, I know.
Those are the three. Okay. Well done, Rita. Anybody else?
We have the Scrum events are the sprint planning, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and the daily Scrum or daily stand-up.
Okay, thank you. Those are the four, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, anybody else? Anyone else? Can you guys see my screen now, right?
No, I can't see.
That's fine. Should be able to see my screen. It's telling me that I'm sharing. You guys, you can't see it.
Maybe you should take back the co-host and then try and Kemi can make you the host again and then you try. Or you stop sharing and try and see if you.
I stopped sharing. I've stopped sharing it a couple of times now. So that I can, because I want you to see what I really want you guys to see what Okay. Don't worry. Okay. Maybe when we meet, hopefully it will still good. Isn't it? Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Okay, don't worry. All right. So when we talk about the events of Scrum, you've mentioned 4 of them. You've mentioned the planning, you've mentioned the daily stand-up, you've mentioned the sprint review and sprint retro. There is one event that is good for us that is incorporated into the events of Scrum now. Does anybody know what that event is? And it's critical to us having a successful sprint planning.
Is it the refinement?
The refinement. Backlog refinement session. Well done. So now what I would want to assume is, because you now all have understanding of Scrum, I want to assume that you all know how to practicalize this. You know what to do at sprint planning meeting. You know what to do at daily stand-up. You know what to do at the refinement session, right? And you know what to do at the retro, how to carry it out. You know how to do it, right?
No, Femi, please. I won't want you to assume. I'll still want you to touch each of them, please. Especially the retro.
Okay.
The planning, I have idea of it. The daily scrum, I have idea of it. But the review, the retro, sorry, I don't.
Okay. So when we talk about, let's start from planning. When we talk about planning, what do you do at planning? What do you need to do a sprint plan? What would you need to do a successful sprint planning, guys?
You need your PBIs, your product backlog items, which is the user stories that the BAs have put on. You need that. And you definitely need your developers and your QA, because you need to open the cards to be sure that the contents are understood, in terms of the story, that before the stories are committed. And you also need them there when you come to estimating the effort on the cards on each of your PBIs. That's
Okay.
I said that first.
Okay, well done. So you need that. But what do you need with the story? Do you just need any story? You spoke about user story. Well done. But what do you need with the user story?
The acceptance criteria.
Okay, it's not just acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria are great. But there are things that we have something that your user story must meet. There is a standard that there is a guide for your story to meet something. We call it DOR. What is DOR? What does it mean?
Definition of ready.
Yes, good. DOR means definition of ready. All right. Before you want to pick up a story, it must be that your story, that user story, meets definition of ready. And for it to meet definition of ready, one of the things we want to see there is what you call the acceptance criteria. But there is a guide to writing a good user story. And a good delivery manager must know that. What's the guide? That guide is what we call invest criteria. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Right.
Do you know what the invest criteria means, right?
No, please.
Your user story must be independent. What did I say?
Independent.
A good user story must be independent. What do I mean by independent? A good user story is not, as a user, I want to I want to open the door. I want to put the key and open the door and push the door so that I can enter. What do you think is wrong with that user story? Can anybody guess what is wrong with that? Or I say, as a user, I want to wash the kettle, put water in the kettle, and put light on the kettle, and boil the kettle, and pour hot water from the kettle, and put tea bag in the cup so that I can drink tea. What do you think is wrong with that user story?
It has too many parts.
Too many variables.
Fantastic. It has too many parts, and we don't encourage that for any good user story. A very good user story must be independent. It can't stand on its own. It does not need anything else to be able to fulfill completing that user story. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why we say a good user story must be what? Independent. A good user story must be negotiable. That's the second one. Invest, independent, negotiable. All right? Negotiable in the context of people must understand it, that they can ask relevant questions, not something that is obscured, that nobody understands what you have written, and they can't really ask you any question. That's not negotiable. And we can't say, oh, should we move it to, okay, how about if we do it like that? Okay, this is what you have. Oh, we understand now. Oh, implementing it might cost this. This might, okay, should we? It must be negotiable, a good user story. People must understand it, that they can ask the right question. And it must be something that adds value. It's not just that it adds value, it must be something that is estimatable. And one of the criteria for us to be able to estimate a story is by adding the acceptance criteria that you said earlier. If we don't have acceptance criteria, it will be difficult for anybody to estimate a user story. Does that make sense? Then it must be small enough to be completed within an iteration, within a sprint. A good user story is a user story that you can finish within a sprint. As a good delivery manager, you do not want to encourage that your team will be moving one story, one user story, from one sprint to another sprint, to another sprint, to another sprint. It's a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that the team does not know how to implement that user story, or that that user story has dependency that is not defined before the team committing themselves to it. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
It must be testable as well. It must be something that people can test to know what good looks like. This is just a guide. It could go beyond that. So we've spoken about DOR now. There is what we call DOD as well. But we get into that as we go on. And I believe you all know DOD, right? What's DOD?
What? Definition of done.
The definition of done. So now, as you know, why is this thing not showing? I was expecting it to show. Okay, don't worry. If it's not showing tonight, it will show another time.
Femi, would you want to share it with maybe Kemi or someone that it's on the system, and then they share their screen and you can talk us through it? If it's okay.
Don't worry, I will still share it with all of you. I'm going to put it in PDF anyway. Don't worry. I'll still put it in PDF. Please just
yeah.
I log off I log off that. I want to log back into it again to try it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, all right. So one of the things that, you know, that we were talking about is the user story. So we've spoken about the event. You need a good user story that meets definition of ready before you can commit yourself into planning on that user story. You don't want to commit your team to picking up a user story that does not meet definition of ready. If they pick a user story that does not meet definition of ready, what do you think is going to happen? We're talking about your sprint planning now. What do you think is going to happen? Your team has just picked up a user story that does not meet definition of ready. What do you think might happen?
It might not get committed because something is going to go wrong in between.
Oh, they've committed to it. It's not that it might not get committed.
Okay.
They've picked it up. What do you think is going to happen? They've picked up a user story that does not meet definition of ready.
Then it's either there's gonna be a problem when the developers try to build it, or there might be bugs when the QAs are testing it. It just won't meet the definition of done. They'll have to keep passing it back to do it again.
Fantastic. That means that story will fail. And once a story fails, the sprint, it will fail the sprint. Because they have committed themselves to something that they are not sure about. It is your responsibility as a delivery manager to support your Scrum Master to make sure that their team do not commit to what they don't understand. That's the reason I'm taking time to explain this to you, because you should know better than them. Are we clear, everybody?
Yes.
So apart from that, now we've talked about user story. What else do you need? You spoke about your developers and testers. Yes, but it's not just that you need developers and testers. What do you need from them? You need their availability. It is the availability that you factor into what we call your capacity. The team's capacity for that sprint is critical. You don't want to commit to something when some people will not be available. Let's say you have 5 developers, you have 2 testers. How many are there? 7. Now, out of the 7 people, if 3 of them would be on vacation throughout the sprint, and you haven't factored that into your planning, what do you think is going to happen?
We won't achieve the objective of the sprint.
They can't, because you have planned for people that will not be available. And that's why it's important that your Scrum Master, as a delivery manager, if they give you the role of a Scrum Master as well, you've got to be able to practice that in an effective way, ensuring that you have only allocated work to people that will be available. So as a rule of thumb, you know, we have a recommendation that we give to each team to say, within your team, if you have 5 people, there is a way you should be able to measure your capacity if you are doing what we call relative sizing or complexity planning, relative complexity planning, where we use story points. So you need to factor the availability of your people before committing into what you want them to do. Does this make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the items that you're going to, it's not just that you have user story as well. It's got to be that the user story is prioritized. So it's not just enough for you to have PBI. It's got to be prioritized backlog items that you're picking? And who does the prioritization for us? Is it the Scrum Master that does the prioritization?
The product owner.
The product owner. Okay. So so that's when you now factor that it is that capacity that you have that you are able to use to plan for your sprint, to say, this sprint, this is my capacity for the sprint. I hope this is helpful to you guys.
Very helpful.
Very, very.
Mm.
All right. So after you've done your sprint planning, now when you've agreed and the team has agreed and everything, you as a Scrum Master, it is your responsibility to create the sprint. And it is your responsibility to start the sprint. It is also your responsibility to end the sprint. In some organizations, your product owner might do it. But because you are the process person, it is your responsibility to do it. Now, after you've started your sprint, the following day, what's going to happen? You start your daily stand-up. Daily stand-up is very easy, but it can also be complex. Why is it that your daily stand-up can be complex? Because your daily stand-up actually dictates what's going to happen on each day of a delivery manager or a Scrum Master. Why? What are the 3 things you want to know at the daily stand-up? Guys, tell me. You know it. Tell me. What are they?
What
you did.
Pardon?
If there's any impediment.
Talk to me, guys.
What you did yesterday? What you
Impediment, is that the first thing you want to ask?
No.
Okay.
What was
So, well,
what you
so
did?
you want to know what was done yesterday or since the last time you met, what will be done today, what will be worked on today, and you want to know if there are impediments.
Yes.
If there is any impediment, those impediments would dictate how your day will go. For example, if a developer comes to you to say, I couldn't continue the work I was doing yesterday. Why? Because the storage, we had no storage, or because something is logging off, or something is just not working. As a Scrum Master, as a delivery manager, because you're an impediment remover, it is your responsibility to support that person to get it resolved.
Idiot, you stole me.
Sorry, can you mute yourself, Prep Major? Can you mute yourself? I'm going to mute you now. All right, that's fine. Yes, Ajayi, you raised your hand. Go for it. You have a question?
Are you talking? No, did I raise my hand? No.
Yes. Your hand is
Well, I
raised.
can. Okay.
Ajayi Adetunji, right?
No, that's not me. Is there any
Okay.
Ajayi?
Ajayi Adetunji, you raised your hand.
There's no one on the call that signed in with that name.
Somebody took me out to another place.
Another place, maybe.
They've taken me out.
But you're still here.
You're here with us. We can hear you.
Yeah. With us,
Maybe the person joined this breakout room and then left because there are other calls going on. So maybe they joined the wrong one and then left.
Okay. All right. Hopefully. Hopefully that's what happened.
Your screen share is up.
Oh, my screen is sharing now.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Finally. Woo! Finally. That's good. Okay. So you understand what I'm saying, guys? So we've spoken about the sprint planning, right? You look at this, the roles, the events, and the artifacts. So we've spoken about the sprint planning, right? Now we talk about the daily stand-up, okay? So when we talk about the daily stand-up, at the daily stand-up, we've spoken about the 3 important questions that will be asked. So let's say we've moved on from there now. We go to the sprint review. What's happening at the sprint review? Talk to me, guys. At the sprint review, what's happening there?
That's where the team they review what's, so I don't want to mix this up with the demo. That's where the team reviews what's happened at the sprint.
Is it the team that will review it?
So I think this is where I'm mixing it up. I don't know if sprint review and sprint demo are separate things.
They are the same.
Yeah, they say, okay, then that's where
People
the
just
team
use different words. Some, yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
where
go
they demonstrate the shippable products, what they've built in that sprint to the stakeholders, to the sponsor, so you get feedback or, you know, to say it's met their expectations.
Fantastic. That's good. So what can happen after the sprint review? The sprint review can dictate many things. All right. Some would say, oh, sprint review is when you only have the product owner that comes and the product owner gives back. It doesn't make any difference. It could be sprint demo, it could be sprint review. Actually, in some contexts, we call it show and tell when we have it a quarterly place, but some people call show and tell at the end of every sprint as well. So here, what we want is to be able to remember what we said. We want collaboration with customers along the way, isn't it? All the way. We don't want it to be that customers would come to find out what we have done at the end. We want them to see as we're going. This is where we carry customers along. This is where those people will come and they'll be able to see what you've done to say, no, that blue is not very bluish. We prefer it to be more blue than that. Does this make sense? After we have done our sprint review, then we would have what we call the sprint retro as a team. At the sprint review, as a delivery manager, you are not the one to show what was done. You are not the one that did the work. What did I say? Hello? Can everybody still hear me?
Not the one to show.
Yeah, you're not the one that, yeah.
You're not the one to demonstrate what was done. Who is supposed to demonstrate it? It could be the developers, it could be the testers. The testers mostly, depending on the technicality of the work, the testers might be the one that will show what they've tested because they are the ones that tested it. In some contexts, it could be the product manager or the product. In some places, if we're showing things to customers or to business, sometimes it could be the product owner or the product manager that will actually show what has been done. Does this make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then after we've done that, we have the retro. And at the retro, there are different ways that you can capture sprint retro. All right? It's not just what went well, what didn't go well, areas of improvement. Those are not just the only ones. There are other aspects that you could capture retro. But that's the popular one. You want to know, how did we do well? What is it that we didn't do well? And how can we improve as a team? Does that make sense? Now, it's not, when you look at the framework in front of you, you would see, you can still all see my screen, right? You will see that we have Agile leader, we have Agile coach. There are other roles that play vital roles, vital things within the Scrum framework. They might not be part of the team that gets the job done, but they play important roles. An Agile coach is very critical because the Agile coach is the one that will be leading and guiding the team, the product owner, the Scrum Master, the team, to make sure that everything that they are supposed to do is done the right way and they are following the right process. The Agile leader is critical because these are the people at the top. Except we get the blessing of the people at the top, many times to implement Agile, it's difficult. And from there, they feed. We have people that feed into the product owner's role to make it what it should be. Does this make sense, guys?
Yeah, quick question, please. What's the difference between the Agile leader and the Agile coach?
Agile leader could be a sponsor. Agile leader could be part of the leadership of the team. An Agile coach is just a subject matter expert in Agile process that has been brought in to support the team, to train the team, to guide the team, to make sure that they are doing things the right way. Can you see the difference? An Agile leader may not actually have any great experience of Agile, but because he's a leader in the project, in the team, in the program, or in the organization, they are given the Agile leadership role to see that we work in an Agile way. People like that, many times we need to carry them along. And if they are difficult people, then it will be difficult to implement Agile. So we need Agile leadership to be able to successfully implement Agile. Does this make sense to everybody?
Yes, thank you.
I believe we've gone through Scrum framework today. I don't think any of you should have any problem if we talk about Scrum after now. Is it very clear to everyone?
I have a quick question about the burn down chat and where that comes in.
That's on the artifact, which is where we're going. The artifact is the product backlog, the sprint backlog. With product backlog is the entirety of the stories that you have to deliver the product. Sprint backlog is the work that you have taken, prioritized work that you have taken from the product backlog. Sprint backlog is what the team can commit to fulfill just for that particular sprint. Sprint backlog is targeted towards a sprint. Product backlog is targeted towards the entire product. Now, when we talk about burn down chart, a burn down chart is one of the metrics that we use to be able to look at what we've committed to and the time that we have left to be able to finish the work that is left. For example, you have 10 user stories that you want to deliver, and they are all 5 story points. That makes 50 story points, isn't it? 10 user stories. And you have 10 working days to deliver them. On the first day, the team was only able to do 5 user stories. Second day, they couldn't do any. Third, they couldn't do any. On the fourth day, this team was only able, on the fourth day, they were only able to deliver 10 story points. As a Scrum Master, what do you think? As a delivery manager, what do you think? Is that team on track to deliver?
Falling behind.
So on the fourth day, they are on the 10 story points when they have 50 story points to deliver. They're falling behind. And that tool is meant to help you as a delivery manager to know that the way these people are going, it doesn't show that they would meet their commitment. And then you are able to quickly shout it out. So do you know the importance of burn down chart now, right?
Yes, yes.
It's a graphical representation. It has contour. We might go through that maybe later. Okay? All right. Any question, guys? Any other question?
Hello, Femi.
Hi.
Yeah, please, I'm a bit lost. On the burn down chart, I'm a bit lost there, honestly.
Okay. So when we talk about burn down chart, for example, you remember I spoke about sprint backlog now, all right? A team will commit themselves to say, we're going to deliver this story, this story, this story, this story within this sprint. And their sprints, if it is 2-week sprints, in 2-week sprints, you have 10 working days, isn't it? All right? Are you following? Please answer so that I will know you are following me.
I'm following.
So if it's a 10 working day sprint, which is 2 weeks, now the team, let's assume that we have developers that have estimated 50 story points. We've estimated that these people would deliver 50 story points in this sprint. Okay? Now, the burn down chart is a graphical representation that comes from the tool you are using. You are not the one to draw it. The tool itself gives it up to you. If you are using Jira, the burn down chart will show you in Jira. If you are using Azure DevOps, you will see the burn down chart in Azure DevOps. If you are using Rally, you will see it there. If you are using version 1, you will see any tool that you are using. The burn down chart will be there to guide you. Now, I gave an example. Your team has committed themselves to deliver 50 story points in 10 working days. Now, at the end of 4th
I
working
can't hear
day,
you, please.
pardon? Can you say that again?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can everybody else hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. So your team had committed themselves to 10 working days to deliver 50 story points. Now you discover that on the 4th working day, the team has only delivered 10 story points. Do you think that team would meet up?
No, they won't.
Why?
Because they've just done 10 out of 50.
That's it. They've only delivered 5%, or sorry, 20%. They've only delivered 20% of the work when they have almost gotten to 50% of the time. That's what burn down chart helps us to measure. Does that make sense?
Yes, please. It does. Thank you.
It has that graphical representation that helps us to be able to know. And not only that, you would still find it in figures written in front or at the bottom of it. Okay? I'm going to have to stop here, guys. All right. I'm going to have to stop here for tonight. Next week, when you come, we're going to go into the other aspect of your work, your role as Agile project manager, as a delivery manager, where we will talk about the framework, where we talk about
Sorry, Femi. The audio is so bad.
The team that you have been assigned.
Femi.
And yeah.
Can you please
is it still bad
yourself? Yeah, we lost you for
Is it still bad now? Can you hear me now?
It's much better.
But you can hear me now, right?
Yeah, it is much better.
All right. So I think I'm going to end it here tonight. From next sprint, yes, from next week, we're going to be going into other aspects of the delivery management and the Agile project management aspect of the course. That's from next week. Okay, guys? So what I would want you to do is to go back based on what we have done today. I believe we've covered the Agile element of delivery management. We've covered various frameworks. We have actually focused on Scrum. And we talked extensively today on user story writing. If you are not clear about it, I'm happy to still take some time to talk about that for you. But I want to believe we've covered this effectively now, right? Anything else that is not clear in it, please let me know. It doesn't mean we won't still touch it, but after now, we'll be going into some other core things that you need to be doing as a delivery manager. Okay?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Femi.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Femi.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you.
You're
so much.
welcome. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good morning. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kemi. In terms of your recording, I guess you stopped then, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.